This is Community Close-Up with Jay Dow. Brought to you by Jacoby & Myers, New York's personal injury attorneys.
This is PIX11 Community Close-Up, and I'm your host, Jay Dow. The 4th of July is right around the corner, and when we see the American flag hanging on a home, plastered on a vehicle, or worn on clothing, the fact is these days it often sparks provocative conversations. Some portray it as the ultimate display of patriotism. For others, the flag is a political statement, with a simple mention of it opening the door to other sensitive conversations about race, immigration, and who gets to call themselves an American. So we recently hit the road to have some real, honest conversations about what many would argue is now a touchy subject about the flag, politics, and patriotism. Where would the United States be, and what would it mean without its flag? It's so much more than the 50 stars, the stripes, those familiar colors, red, white, and blue. These days, this singular image also triggers a whole lot of conversation about what exactly the flag means, or should mean, during these turbulent times. So as the good old US of A celebrates its 249th birthday, we are taking the temperature, dropping into different neighborhoods and talking to different people all across our area to ask some thought-provoking questions. Among them, how do you feel about the flag and patriotism? Our first stop, West New York, New Jersey, a predominantly Latino community, which also boasts one of the largest Cuban communities. It's worth noting Cuba was added just last month to the Trump administration's travel ban list. What's the first word that comes to mind when you see the American flag?
Pride.
When you think about the American flag, does it stir up feelings of politics or patriotism these days?
For me, patriotism, but I think the problem that we've gone into as a country is that instead of the flag being something that unifies us, it's kind of dividing us.
What goes through your mind when you see a house with an American flag hanging on it?
I think they're just proud to be in this country, and they're proud to be American, whether they were born here, whether they came here, because this country gave them opportunities that a lot of other places didn't. Like my family that came from Cuba, they came from a place that took everything away and told them they had to leave.
When you think about the American flag, does it stir up feelings of politics or patriotism these days?
These days, politics.
Are you okay with that?
No.
Why?
It shouldn't be like that. It should be what it stands for. It's America, what we were built from.
We then headed north to the significantly less diverse, majority Republican township of Rochelle Park in Bergen County, where there's no shortage of flags hanging on one home after another. Bob, what's the first word that comes to mind when you see the American flag?
America. Patriotism, first. Politics is part of patriotism. It's your duty as an American citizen to be political and to voice your opinion. Some people have demonized people who hang a flag out in front of their house. It's the flag. It's supposed to be a flashpoint.
A flashpoint for some strong opinions. When you think about the flag, is the first feeling about patriotism or politics?
Patriotism. It's disgusting. You know, take them people and not put them in jail, cremate them, or send them back to their countries so they respect the United States. They don't know what they have when they come here. We're giving this whole United States up to them people moving to take over and give it everything that we built here. That's the whole problem it is right today. These people from coming over, they're getting chased out of their countries. Now, all these people over here, they're turning all against us.
Across the Hudson River, the Bronx, for all of its flavor, did not disappoint. What's the first thing you think about when you see the American flag?
Christopher Columbus, and that he's discovered America.
When you see the American flag, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Patriotism or politics?
Politics.
When you see someone driving down the street and they've got the big American flag on their vehicle, or they've got a flag hanging from their house, what do you think about that person?
I stay away from them.
So you said you don't feel safe in those neighborhoods.
No, I don't.
Why?
Because they're racist.
So you equate the flag with racism.
Yeah, because there's nothing to be proud about waving that flag around.
And with that, we headed to the predominantly Asian neighborhood of Flushing, Queens. Patriotism or politics?
Politics, definitely politics. I think it's a bad thing. The United States is a country that a lot of immigrants came here. It is an immigration country. A lot of people, they have their dream, that was they call the American dream. When they came here, they for liberty, they came for freedom, they came for opportunities. But now these days, we have a lot of restrictions on tariffs, on trade, on unemployment, on immigration status.
Our last two stops couldn't be more different. In East Flatbush, Brooklyn, we saw flags flying repping several different countries. That includes Haiti, another country recently added to the Trump administration's latest travel ban list. Interestingly enough, among residents in both East Flatbush and Whitestone, we heard similar expressions of betrayal, but from a different perspective.
Patriotism or politics?
Politics. I really don't vote no more because I think that it's a waste of time. I mean, the government is basically corrupt.
My family came from Haiti, from Saint-Marc, Haiti.
When you think about the U.S. flag, do you think first about politics or patriotism?
We represent our homelands, where we came from. I'm a natural-born American, but for the people in this community, we are betrayed by that U.S. flag.
We also spent time in the predominantly white community of Whitestone, Queens. We spoke to elected council members representing both neighborhoods. What is the first word that comes to mind when you see the American flag?
Freedom.
First up, Republican council member Vicky Palladino.
You may not come to this country and not wave an American flag. You can stay quiet, but I don't want to see another country's flag waving the country you ran from. We've got people here who are trying to change the American way of life. You're a guest. You're a guest until you're legal. And then you become part of the fabric of the United States of America. That's an honor.
When you see the American flag, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Patriotism.
Haitian American council member Farrah Lewis represents East Flatbush.
It appears that folks are aligned with conservative values if they respect the flag, if they honor the flag, and that's not so. I think about people like Beyonce who wrap the flag around them, right? And stand on the values that we were here too. We built this country.
Up next, a look at the devastating impact of incarceration on mental health. One man's story about a wrongful arrest and almost a year spent behind bars on Rikers Island, recovering from that trauma and what others can do to learn from his experience. In recognition of National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, we sat down with a young man who says a nearly year-long wrongful incarceration on Rikers Island nearly broke him. At one point, he says he was climbing the walls and playing with his own excrement. Just a warning, this story offers a painful snapshot of the devastating impact of incarceration on mental health, but just as importantly, offers important updates on what's being done about it. 28-year-old Victor Abraham is in the midst of managing the ultimate balancing act.
It's been ups and downs, you know.
Struggling with chronic mental health issues, often holding everything inside.
As far as getting hospitalized and things like that, you feel like you can't really say how you feel.
Out of fear, he won't be able to be there for his fiancée Stephanie and their 2 young children.
It's been extremely difficult because, you know, as a man in the family, you want to be able to take care of your family.
Victor readily acknowledges periodically struggling with some mental issues during his childhood, stemming from his relationship with his mother. But Victor believes his mental health issues really took a turn for the worse nearly a decade ago, after he was incarcerated for nearly a year, 345 days at Rikers Island Jail, following what was ultimately deemed to be a wrongful arrest.
I ended up in the psych unit. It was terrifying. It was scary. Every day I was looking over my shoulder.
This story, not so much about Victor's 2016 criminal case, which again, a jury decided never should have been filed in the first place, but rather a revealing examination of what Victor describes as the devastating effect of incarceration on his mental health.
Even it started in this. They was diagnosing me with bipolar and schizoaffective disorder and even PTSD. You know, all these terms, I don't really know it. I'm not a medical doctor, so I know how I'm feeling.
During our recent conversation in the Bronx, where he and his family are now living, Victor described in detail how being behind bars launched his descent into madness.
Then there was somebody in a single cell who I guess he already lost his mind because he was just throwing feces, toilet water on us. I'm just laying on the floor, and then they Sooner or later, I start going crazy too. Now I'm in a cell by myself, they're ignoring me. I've been in there for probably, I don't know, there's no time on the clock, so I can't even really accurately tell you how long I was in that single cell. So I started climbing up, throwing myself down, playing with my excrements. I couldn't stop myself. I was just losing my mind.
Victor is currently suing the city and the NYPD, including his arresting officers, alleging they violated his constitutional rights. He and his attorney have already rejected the city's first 2 settlement offers. Neither of them, Victor says, were enough to make up for the dreams and aspirations that he says were stolen from him.
From the first time I got on the plane, I was infatuated with planes. So that was like my whole childhood. Every time somebody would ask me, I said, oh, I want to be a pilot.
A dream deferred, if not completely derailed. And Victor is not alone. According to a long-term study released in 2023 and published in the Journal of General Internal Medicine, prior incarceration is significantly associated with poorer mental health outcomes later in life. Specifically, those with an incarceration history were nearly twice as likely to have a history of mental health issues, were more than twice as likely to report depression symptoms in the past year, and faced a 65% higher risk of lifetime depression.
All I can ask myself nowadays is, what if I never went through that experience, you know? Like, what if this never happened to me?
Welton K. Wisham is Victor's civil attorney.
How can someone maintain their sanity for that long period of time, knowing they hadn't committed any crime whatsoever? He suffers today nightmares, revisiting every day in Rikers Island confinement.
In the interest of hopefully helping others who are currently incarcerated or share Victor's experience of past incarceration, regardless of the circumstances, we reached out to New York City officials to find out more about the availability of mental health services on Rikers Island and what protocols are in place for people in custody. Additionally, contrary to what was in place during Victor's jailing a decade ago, the city now makes available to everyone leaving custody help accessing prescribed medications in their own communities, a peer-staffed re-entry telephone hotline, and as of March of this year, the city also provides free smartphones and service plans to remain engaged in medical and mental health treatment services. Victor now spends his time trying to find any work he can, while trying to be the best dad he can be at home. It's worth noting, home for the last year has been a homeless shelter located a couple of blocks from the park in the Bronx where we sat down to interview Victor. Still, Victor says he refuses to let his wrongful incarceration define him or keep him from dreaming big.
All this hardship is building up to something, and I know my story is not done.
The NYPD declined to comment on this story, citing pending litigation. Up next, stay with us. We've got great info to help insulate your wallet and your bank account against the summer heat and spiking utility bills.
You're watching Community Close-Up with Jay Dow.
We can't control Mother Nature, and that often means how much you spend on air conditioning during the hot summer. But as our James Ford found out, relief is out there if you know where to look.
Cynthia Clark, who's lived in her apartment for more than 20 years, is retired from a decades-long career as a hospital medical technician.
Being that I am a senior, I'm on a fixed budget.
What that means during the hottest time of the year?
And for years, it works very nice.
Is that she's keeping an eye on how much she has to pay to keep cool and for other utilities.
If it goes higher, it's going to be difficult for me because right now my bill is usually about $80. That's pretty high.
She's talking about increasing utility rates in our region. In New Jersey, electricity bills rose about 20% in June, and Con Edison's 3.7 million customers, like Cynthia Clark, face at least an 11% hike next year if the state grants the utility's request.
Every month, that'd be a lot.
We are, acutely aware of the affordability crisis in New York City, and these are things that we think about all the time.
Alfonso Quiros is a spokesperson for Con Ed, which has some of the highest rates in the country. It recommends what it calls simple ways to lower costs.
Make sure your blinds are closed. Make sure your curtains are closed, because in that way the room is going to stay dark and it's going to stay cool. Don't air condition a room that you're not in.
But on the hottest days,
I probably would just go to the center and hang out over there.
She's talking about the Hamilton Grange Senior Center at Convent Avenue Baptist in Harlem, which also serves as a cooling center. The temperature in here is comfortable, even in long sleeves. Seniors come here to play bingo, get low-cost meals, and talk about issues like the proposed utility rate hikes.
I don't like the idea when it goes up, even if they tell you it's going to go down. Anything that rises nowadays goes up instead of down.
Coincidentally, while we were at the cooling center, Con Ed technicians came to work on the cooling system. The utilities rate hike proposal is getting pushback from Albany, but some sort of increase is still expected.
We'll find out soon enough about how it all ends up.
The utility is not providing details on the status of the rate hike proposal, but it does say that right now it has ways to make bills less stressful.
The budget billing program. And what that does is it spreads out your bill over a couple of months so that it's a little bit easier to take. There are programs for seniors, there are programs for people with disabilities.
But some of them have limited online access, and information on the programs and ways to sign up are available online. Con Ed's response?
You can call us at 1-800-75-CON-ED, and we have a whole list of people that will be able to help out.
Some sweltering seniors like Cynthia Clark say that's a start toward help for her.
I don't know anything about the whatever program they have for seniors. I perhaps need to look into it.
And she's got online access. You can get plenty of information at PIX11.com and at ConEd.com. For Community CloseUp, I'm James Ford.
Coming up, a joyful celebration of natural hair at work because, well, it's the law. How the Crown Act is changing the way we think about hair. Everyone should be able to go to work or school without being discriminated against for their braids, locks, afros, or any other form of natural hair. The law that bans that kind of discrimination just celebrated its 6th anniversary. Aaron E. LeBeau has more.
For Sadie Clark. Hi. Trips to the salon haven't always been welcoming because of her hair.
Wow. I've broken brushes before. I've been told not to come back to some salons before because they were not prepared to do my hair.
After years of straightening it and hair damage, she's now embracing her natural locks.
It was scary at first, for sure, because hair is identity. And having that long straight hair also made it seem as though I was told I was more feminine, I was more beautiful.
Brooklyn salon owner Geneva Clark says more people are doing the same since the passing of the Crown Act.
It allows you to shine your light, right? Your inner light, and let the world see you for who you want them to see you as and not who you are forced to be.
Crown, which stands for Create Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair, was established in 2019 to protect people from hair discrimination in the workplace and public schools. Hairstyles typically associated with Black and brown people, like braids, locks, and curls. It's something Legal Defense Fund attorney Michelle Turnage-Young says is common.
With our hair, the way it grows out of our heads, we shouldn't be denied an opportunity to get an education. We should not be denied an opportunity to advance our careers.
Now, nearly half of the states in the U.S. have the law, but the LDF is pushing for all 50.
We should all want to live in a world where the way you wear your hair, particularly if it's associated with your cultural identity, is not adversely affecting your opportunities.
What do you hope with things like the Crown Act moving forward, we kind of establish as a society? Just self-expression and the freedom to do that in any kind of way.
A freedom that allows her and others to show up as they truly are. For Community Close-Up, I'm Erin LeBeau.
Great story. Thanks, Erin. And we want more of them, so keep sending us your stories. Email us at communitycloseup@pix11.com. I'm your host, Jay Dow. See you next time on PIX11 Community Close-Up.